Well, for more analysis, I'm now joined by Frederic Neumann. He's Senior Asian Economist at HSBC. Thanks so much for joining us, Frederic. So tell us, how serious is this escalation? Is it the usual saber rattling or something more serious this time?
Well, it's a little bit more serious than we've seen in the past. Clearly, we had a sinking of a ship involved here. We have a lot of diplomatic tensions between the North and the South. But I think it is important to keep things in perspective. I think a full-blown conflict seems unlikely. It's in nobody's interest, whether North or the South. I believe there's now better cooperation between the U.S. and China, which helps also alleviate the tensions. So I wouldn't get carried away here. I think it is serious, but I wouldn't sort of take this necessarily as a signal to sell out of Korea and to run for the hills. This is still a robust economy.
Now, you just mentioned China. South Korea is China's third biggest trading partner. China also trades with the North. When are we going to see them step in, or are we going to see them step in? Because they haven't said a word yet, have they?
Well, I think the Chinese work sort of behind the scenes. They never overtly step in. They try to exert influence on the North, on the regime in the North through back channels, and I'm quite confident that these are ongoing, that perhaps these have been reinvigorated in recent days, because it is not in China's interest to see these tensions escalate as well, nor is it in the U.S.'s interest. And I think ultimately they will prevail on North Korea to rein in perhaps its aggression. It's also tied up with local politics in South Korea. For example, we have elections coming up, so all sides are posturing here.
Now, what's going to be the economic impact of this episode between the Koreas, do you think?
Well, it comes at a very sensitive time. We have clearly some stress in world financial markets emanating from Europe, and therefore the Korean tensions came at a very difficult time, and that's why we saw big market moves yesterday. But the underlying economy is still very sound. I don't think there'll be any lasting impact from the tensions with North Korea on the South Korean economy, and even I don't think that the European jitter is necessarily going to have a dramatic impact on Asia or on Korea over the medium term.
What about the won? Do you expect that to weaken further?
Well, the won is right now a little bit whipsawed in the markets. We saw some stabilization efforts yesterday by policymakers. I think the markets have calmed down a little bit. Fundamentally, the currency is fairly cheap. In fact, given the competitiveness of the export sector in Korea, the economy is going to grow at near 6% this year. So I do believe we sort of have some upside from here on out.
What about the wider Asian economic recovery? I mean, what's the outlook for that, especially if the European debt crisis were to worsen?
Well, the direct impact from the European debt crisis is, in our view, not that large, because if you look at the contribution of exports to Europe to Asian GDP growth, it has been quite minimal, in fact, since the crisis erupted in the West in 2008. So Asia doesn't depend really on a strong European economy. As long as the U.S. growth healthily, Asia can notch out fairly robust growth rates. So the prospects for Asia remain bright.
Frederic Neumann, there, Senior Asian Economist at HSBC. Thanks so much for joining us.